Okay, then we are going to go ahead and get started. Good evening, everyone. It's September 3rd, 2020, and I would like to call this meeting of the Lansing School District Board of Education to order. Will everyone please, in a moment, join us for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Dr. Beverly?
Present.
Dr. Body?
Here.
Dr. Burrows?
Present.
Ms. Hodgen? Ms. Hodgen, I see you're there.
Yeah.
Mrs. Lawrence?
Here.
Mrs. Lilgy?
Here.
Mr. Lopez?
Present.
Dr. Rodriguez?
Present.
Mrs. Willis?
Present.
Quorum is present.
Thank you so much. Any additions to the agenda this evening? Seeing none, I don't believe we have anyone who's registered to make public comment. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Then we will get started this evening with our surface sanitation protocol for Sodexo and Mr. Mark Harsley. Hi, Mark.
Hi, everyone, members of the board, Superintendent Corporal. We thank you for having me here. Glad to be a part of this fanciness. I like it. I like it a lot. So I know John or someone was going to give me a little help and put the presentation on the screen. There are only 6 slides, so it shouldn't be too cumbersome. Don't know if I have sharing abilities or not.
I just tried to share and it says as disabled. So if you have it, Mark, or unless Ray can give me sharing rights.
Let me see if I can share it here. Okay, give me just a second. Apologies.
John or Mark should be able to share right now.
Okay, let's see if you can share my screen.
Here we go.
Hey, this works. I love it when a plan comes together here. So we were having a very interesting discussion, John, myself, and I know the the executive team was talking about it as well, as we were making our way through the state of Michigan's Safe School Roadmap. And we were having a specific discussion about moving from a phase 4 to phase 5 and what all that would entail. And so the question came up, it says, you know, with all of the increased requirements for cleaning and disinfecting for the safety of students, the question was, well, how do we know that the chemicals being used aren't causing harm to students as well? So it just led to a really, really good discussion. And so after presenting this to ET a couple weeks ago, it's my pleasure just to show you some highlighted information here. So I'll start at the beginning of this. Forgive me if this sounds rudimentary, but there are some key points that deserve to be made. There are 3 basic categories of chemicals that we use in a school each day. It's either a cleaner, a sanitizer, or a disinfectant. Invariably, the term sanitizer and disinfectant are used interchangeably and get thrown around, as we say in my neighborhood, all willy-nilly. they're actually two quite different things. And so I just we'll deal a little bit more about that in some of the previous slides and the slides that come in. You'll see why that's important to know. They do totally different things. As you can see, what the cleaner does, it is what I would say to you, it's impossible to disinfect without first cleaning. And the main difference between a sanitizer and a disinfectant is that a sanitizer will kill a significant number of bacteria, but a disinfectant will kill absolutely all of them. It will destroy them completely and render them inactive. And that's important to know when you are charged with taking care of kids. We don't want anything in the building to make them sick. So one of the things about this, as we started thinking about how to effectively clean for COVID-19 in our school districts, it's important to know what surface would the COVID-19 be resting on. And so through our connections with Ecolab and the CDC, we were able to boil down this long efficacy study. And it basically says this, that on stainless steel, COVID-19 germs, our plastic can last anywhere from 2 to 3 days. On a piece of cardboard, it can last only 24 hours. On paper or tissue paper, only 3 hours, but on wood, it can last as long as 2 days. And so this becomes a key part of our plan for disinfecting, because you have to know the surface that it resides on and how you're going to attack it and render it ineffective. So with that knowledge, there are a number of ways to disinfect. And again, I would say when our custodial staff is in the buildings in the evenings, they are disinfecting, they are not sanitizing, because our goal is to render, like we say, all COVID-19 dead carcasses dead before we leave the building at the end of that shift. So there are a number of ways to apply disinfectant, and a lot of them have gotten a lot of publicity in the news here recently. You can use a regular old spray bottle. My favorite, well, not really, I'm speaking tongue in cheek, is the Fogger. And you can use pre-moistened wipes, or you can take soap and a fire hose and water and wash down whatever surface, and that will render it ineffective as well. As you all have known and heard, that around the coating of every COVID-19 cell is this fatty tissue, and that tissue has to be broken down in order to kill it. So what I was shared with ET is while foggers are very popular and they make for good photo opportunities, we should be very cautious about the places inside of a school we use them. And the reason is a fogger needs to aerosolize chlorine, essentially chlorine bleach. And so that is not something that should be taken lightly. It will cut the life expectancy of any surface that touches down. It's not good to breathe. When our people can do it, they have to be fully PPE'd all the way up to a hazmat suit, and they look like they're walking on the moon or something when they're spraying this stuff around. And something about me, just my approach to this, says that's not the best environment to be doing around school-age students who, in many cases, have pre-existing respiratory issues to deal with as well. So in most cases, this is what we at Sodexo use. It is a peroxide-based disinfectant. In late January, we received guidance from Sodexo, the Sodexo Magic folks, and they were in the fight of their life in Wuhan, China. And you may not be aware, but Sodexo probably does more business in China than they do in America. In fact, I know that they do. And so they were on the front lines on the healthcare schools and university in China combating COVID-19 before it really became the threat that it is, or that we know it to be, when we got our first cases and start talking about it in early February. So what we learned, what Sodexo did at that point was got with Ecolab and said, what are the lessons learned that you're learning in China, and how do we use them in America? And what the first thing that they did was they formulated this product to clean and disinfect based on using it in schools and hospitals. So we were very grateful for the connection between our healthcare partners and us to come up with something that was less corrosive, that had less of a sting to it. The example I use, that if you have a cut and you pour hydrogen, if you pour peroxide on it, it fizzes and it kills the germ. Unlike if you put alcohol on it and you get that sting and that burn. It's kind of the same thing when you're killing germs on surfaces. This is a much more effective way of doing it without the residual after effects. So that is what we learned and switched starting in March to this product in our school systems to start cleaning and disinfecting all of our buildings. Oh, what you'll notice there at the lower part of the screen, those hazardous warnings come directly off the SDS sheets. The SDS sheets in any school building will be found in the custodial closet in the binder. Any chemical that we use, we have to be able to know what the dangers of it are. And as you can see, another reason that this was so effective is that from a health irritability perspective, it's very slight, it's not flammable, it's not unstable, and so it's easy to deal with very basic PPE in applying it. The other key term here, it would be called dwell time. And you'll hear me refer to that in the next products as well. Dwell times means the amount of time it takes for the product to render the virus dead. And so this particular product takes somewhere between 3 and 5 minutes. We spray it on the hard surfaces, high touch areas, handrails, the top of desk, anywhere that a student would touch. And then 3 to 5 minutes later, all bacteria on that surface is dead. We come back 3 to 5 minutes later, wipe it up and keep it moving. Now, it's a little bit different. Our challenge with Jody and her folks in food service is that we have to take a little bit of different of approach to fighting coronavirus, but norovirus and other emerging viral pathogens are our biggest concern in food prep and on those surfaces there. And so the standard is that whatever you use needs to have a dwell time of less than a minute. So the particular solution you hear, it has a stage name called Smart Power Sink and Service Cleaner. But what it kills any germs, any virus, any bacteria, any fungus in 30 seconds or less. You really wouldn't want to use a product in a non-commercial environment because it is very strong, particularly in its concentrated state. And again, I just wanted to take a minute to show you what it looks like in its diluted state when Jody and them are using it to clean before and after food preparation to make sure all the wonderful, tasty Sodexo Magic food is safe, tastes well, and is safe as well. So that's my shameless plug for the great work that Jody and her team does day in and day out. But this is the chemical part about it. She gets all the glory with the fun stuff, and I get to talk about cleaning up. So I don't think there's much fairness in that. And then there's one other slide I want to show you before I open it up for questions. And that is, this is an Oxavar wipe. When you look at it, it looks like a bucket of baby wipes. I can assure you that it is not. It is not for use on children or to be used by children. It, however, is a very effective disinfectant used in a number of our hospital scenarios, healthcare scenarios, because it is a disinfectant that kills germs in under 1 minute. It is a pre-moistened wipe that there are 160 wipes in it. You pull it through the top and you wipe down the surface the graph there. And then, so in a scenario whereby, and I'm very confident we're going to get back to normal school days, and our students are going to come back and they're going to be in classrooms and all that sense of normalcy that we all crave. This will be a part of our solution of the custodians that are in where there are passing periods between students. The plan will have to be to operationalize between the custodians and whomever else, using these wipes to quickly wipe down the hard surfaces of a desktop, for example. So when one student leaves and another one comes in, that we're sure that we had the proper level of disinfecting going on. But this is something you use when time is of the essence. And so we understand that passing periods are not long periods of time, and this is one of the solutions that we would have to incorporate into that. And by the way, this could be used by a teacher, this could be used by a student without any harm to them, with some very general basic instructions on how to use it. Wouldn't use it, wouldn't have any student under 6th grade think about using it, but certainly a 6th grader, anybody who would wash dishes at home and has any basic could use a product like this. So with that said, that's all I have for you, and I will shut up and stop talking, and I would be very, very glad to answer any questions that you might have on any of the screens that we've shown you.
Mrs. Willis?
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Mr. Horsley for that presentation. I have a couple questions for you. The first one is, when you were describing the reasons for not using the aerosol or the fog cleaners, are you saying that we won't use those at all, or we would only use those under certain circumstances?
We'd only use those under certain circumstances. They are best used in athletic venues, shower rooms, locker rooms, large wide open spaces. Using them in a particular classroom has a certain inherent risk that we would have to talk about and evaluate prior to using that, because when bleach, chlorine is aerosolized, then it will stick to any paper or cloth in that room for 3 and 4 days. So what our concern is, in those types of environment, a student can pick up a book and have a negative reaction to it, and it could be a part of the chemical that was fogged days prior to that.
Okay, thank you. And then my second question is, and maybe this is a little bit too early, so it's okay if we're not ready for the answer for it yet, but when we do have staff or students in the building, you were talking about like these wipes that are still on the screen, the quick touch point places, and you talked about the protocol for keeping the building clean after it's been vacated for the day. But what about during the day, those high traffic areas, doorknobs, bathrooms, places that are going to be visited frequently that aren't just a classroom where a teacher can wipe down? What is sort of the plan to make sure that high traffic areas are cleaned when the buildings are occupied?
That's a great question. Right now, prior to COVID, about 30% of our staff was on what we would call first shift during school hours, and about 70% of the custodial staff was on second shift or third shift. What we have to do now, based on the pandemic, is the plan says that we move 70 to 80% of the staff during school hours and only 20% on second shift. And what happens is there will be additional staff in each building that in each passing period, they have this product, and they are going up and down stairwells, handwells, as kids just rub their hand along the wall as they walk down the hall, all those high traffic touch points. The custodians will be armed with this to do the heavy lifting while class is in session in the high traffic areas. And that is the current plan based on what we know so far.
Mark, could you unshare the screen so we can see everyone? Thank you.
Okay.
There we go. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. I kind of lost my power there, Sam. I was kind of feeling pretty good there that I had the power to share. But anyway, so just.
Other questions from board members?
Final question. The protocol that we're doing, is that an additional cost outside of our contract?
When students come back to school, it will take more custodial man hours to man the high touch cleaning during school. It will. It's just the formula will take more. I'm hoping that as Sam, John, and I and Katie talk about this, that there are other participants to this that could help with this process, that maybe are more work to be done in some way. But it will take, to answer your question, yes, it will take more hours, and as much as 10 to 15% more hours to do it correctly.
Okay, and that's to be expected, and I'm sure Mr. Sinicopi and his team have thought about this, but if that's something that our CARES Act allocation can be allocated to because it's a direct COVID expense, that certainly would make sense, but we would want to not spare any expense as it relates to creating a safe environment so that the kids can return in person. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the questions. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair?
Mr. Lopez.
Yeah. What about when kids come into the building after they're able to come? What about things they bring into the building? How are we going to ensure that there's no virus in? I don't know if they bring a hat or a cap, and they can't use it in this building anyway. But with any other miscellaneous item they bring to the building or when they come in, what is the thought on that?
Well, I'm not sure I'm the best person to answer that, but what I would tell you, the CDC's guidance on the best way to protect an individual kid student is the frequent hand washing and all the CDC guidelines for should a student be touching that item that came in and share it with another. I think we all, as being the team, have to say, oh, you got to go wash your hands. You had Johnny's hat in your hand or something like that. So I'll shut up and let the experts answer that.
Well, I'm not an expert, but let me just say this, is that we're going to have specific protocols about when students come back, about how we check them as they come in, whether it's taking temperatures, answering questions, and all those things. So there are, and also I would refer back to one of the slides that Mr. Harsley had about how long the virus stays on certain things. So we're going to be looking at all that, and we're going to do it with our school nurses and the health department and whoever else we need to be involved.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Burrows.
Thanks. Following up on one of Rachel's questions about cost, you mentioned the additional number of hours to do this work. What about the material cost, these sort of cleaning supplies? Is this going to be a significant markup?
Folks at Sodexo marketing love this kind of stuff. Yeah.
Good opportunity.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Moving on to our report from Superintendent. Take it away, Mr. Sinicopi.
Oh, geez, I'm even unmuted. Okay, good evening. We have had an eventful couple of weeks since our last meeting. We had issues with our device distribution and making sure we had enough devices, and we had some bad weather and just all kinds of things going on. We also ended up delaying the opening of school for 1 week, because if you had asked me that, if that would ever happen a month ago, I would have said no way. On August 26th, staff reported, and we had our opening of school professional development day, which ended up being, didn't work out so well. It ended up with, there were around almost 800 people on our Zoom that day, and we kind of blew out the internet, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, didn't work. And it ended up with, I got kicked off from my office, and I went down and was using Dr. Chapman's office. And so her name was on the screen when I was talking, but nobody could hear me anyway. So it worked out fine. We ended up not being able to do that, finished our professional development day. We have rescheduled our keynote speaker for September 30th, which was Dr. Tyrone Howard. So we're excited about having him back. We also have in the process, and we've just finished up, I think this today, we've doubled our bandwidth, which we think will solve some of the problems, but we ended up having staff work from home for 2 weeks because we need to make sure that we're able to deliver instruction on Tuesday, and we can't be guaranteed of that yet until we test all our stuff. I want to give some shout outs to the executive team, principals, teachers, and other staff, and to the board for getting us through these unprecedented times. I've been thinking about this a lot, and some of the decisions and some of the things we've been faced with have been interesting to say the least. I also, and I hope I'm not taking anybody's did you know, I want to just once again give a boost for Parent University. One particular September 16th, we're doing I Can't Get My Kid to Go to School, of being instructed from home, screen to screen. So this will be a very good opportunity for parents. And now for the Did You Knows, we'll start with Ms. Corbin.
Thank you, Sam. Good evening. Did you know that the Human Resources Department has hired 75 new staff members for the start of the 2021 school year? Please help me in welcoming our new family members for what's going to be an amazing school year. Thank you.
Mr. Keck. Oh, I'd like to introduce Sergio Keck, who is here tonight as the newest member of our executive team. And Sergio is going to do his first Did You Know?
Thank you, Mr. Senacopri, and nice to be here too. Did you know that the Lansing School District is offering 600 Learning Lab spots for students of working families in partnership with Boys and Girls Club, Impression 5, Waldemar Nature Center, YMCA, Caterpillar Corner, and Lansing Parks and Recreation. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. John Lang is up next. Mr. Lang.
Good evening. Did you know, even with the screen-to-screen learning to start the school year, the Lansing School District will continue to provide meals to students. Starting Tuesday, September 8th, the first day of school, our partners from Sodexo Magic will be distributing a lunch and breakfast for curbside pickup, similar to what occurred in the spring. However, we have added additional sites, and there are now 31 locations throughout the city available for pickup. Did you also know on Tuesday, September 1st, the USDA extended the summer food service program through December 31st, which means meals can be provided for every day of the week, not just school days. For more information and the list of distribution sites, please view the memo on our website and Facebook. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Cordelia Black.
Thank you. Did you know we are looking forward to our students' return to school? We want students to have a smooth transition from summer to school and feel welcome, safe, and excited about learning. That's why we've asked all staff members to dedicate the first week of school to building positive relationships with students. We have provided staff with a pre-recorded professional learning opportunity that focuses on why positive relationships are important, effective practices for developing and maintaining positive school classroom culture, the importance of student voice, and activities and sample lessons on ways to connect with our students. Let's make this year the best year ever for our students, staff, and community. Thank you.
Ms. Jessica Benavides is up next.
Good evening, everyone. Did you know that in the last week, the Lansing School District has enrolled 98 new students? 46 of those students are kindergartners. We are thrilled to welcome them to the Lansing School District, where it's never too young to dream big.
Thank you. And Ms. Kamala Diaz.
Evening. Did you know that even though classes cannot visit our Ebersol Center in person, that students will still be able to explore the center virtually? The Ebersol online Google site is a place where Lansing School District teachers, students, and families will be able to access asynchronous, virtual, and curated content. Our district website and social media accounts are all linked back and forth to this site for ease of reference and virtual navigation. There is even a section related to natural resource management careers developed specifically for our 4th grade students. Mr. Botwinski, Miss Amanda, and Miss Jane want to remind all of us to remember to take the time to explore and enjoy the amazing natural world right outside our window. Thank you.
Thank you. And you may have noticed Dr. Chapman is not on tonight. She's taking a well-deserved night off. So, Madam President, that concludes our report, my report.
Thank you very much. And thanks to the executive team. Moving on to routine matters and old business. Sorry, everybody. I got distracted for a moment. Committee reports, moving on to our facilities committee report, Dr. Beverly.
Thank you, Madam President. Facilities Committee met on August 27th. Discussed a variety of topics, including 2 bid recommendations in your packet this evening. One for the Everett water main piping for $97,000. And then bid recommendations for furniture at Everett totaling $110,010.39. We had a rich conversation around the district's energy costs, and we heard a presentation from about a owner's rep regarding energy projects, and discussed ways to maximize both sinking fund and bond dollars related to energy projects. We had an update around food service meal distribution that Mr. Lang just shared. And then we reviewed processes and procedures for maintaining staff safety in buildings. Lastly, we reviewed some language for the lease of the Hill facility to the Lansing Police Department. That concludes my
Dr.
report.
Beverly, do you remember, did we discuss having a full board discussion regarding the possibility of the energy project owner's rep at our September 17th meeting?
Yes,
Okay.
as a new business item.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions for Dr. Beverly? All right, moving on to,
Madam
yes,
President,
ma'am.
I have
Yep.
a question of clarification, looking at the bid recommendation for Everett, the furniture. I think that's the right one. Just under comments, it just says recommending purchasing through National IPA. But is it supposed to be in, is that just a typo?
The National Intergovernmental Purchasing Alliance.
Oh, that's what is explained at the top. And the company we're going through is MBS Commercial.
No, all of those companies listed.
Okay.
These are not big comparisons. These are negotiated prices through the National Intergovernmental
Okay.
Purchasing Alliance
Thank you.
with those particular vendors for those products.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Moving on to Personnel Committee, Mrs. Willis.
In your packet this evening, you have our personnel report, which includes quite a bit of new hires. Ms. Corbin told us earlier today that we've been welcoming quite a few folks onto our team. So just note there are some new hires for board approval. There are quite a few staff obtaining tenure, as well as some resignations. Just pointing out, we have one staff retiring after 35 years, as well as some 30-year retirement, as well as the unfortunate announcement that there's 2 staff that we are losing due to deaths. And then we have a couple of new hires on here that are non-teachers. But I don't have anything to add outside of what's included in the written report.
Thank you, Mrs. Willis. Any questions for Mrs. Willis?
Maybe not for Mrs. Willis, but a question regarding compensation for coaches. I understand that in the spring, we continued on the compensation for coaches for the spring who would have coached in the spring. I'm just wondering what is the game plan for coaches in the fall?
I can respond to that. Dr. Beverly, we are going to continue to pay coaches right now. Many of them have done preseason work, so to speak, and over the summer. So we will be talking to them early next week to talk about what expectations would be for carrying on right now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to Policy Committee, Dr. Rodriguez. Dr. Rodriguez, you are muted, my friend. There you go. No.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam President. The Policy Committee met August 24 from 2 to 3. I want to thank the board members, Mrs. Lichi and Dr. Beverly, for their contribution during this meeting, and especially I want to thank the superintendent, Camila Diaz, and others that they were there helping us and understanding, especially the Title I regulations. And what we decided that what we want is to have an ISS meeting in where every board member had to understand that particular policy. Has been some changes to follow regulations. I think the committee thinks that's very, very important that every board member knows about that. Then when we had the first ISS meeting, I will ask the president if we can put that in the agenda. I will ask Dr. Beverly when we are going to need to go for the first reading for the other regulations that we have, that he can go through all the policies that we studied that day. And many of these policies are part of the code of conduct for the Lansing School District. And we will see then when we go to the approval of the first, I think the first reader of these policies. We spend a lot of time in Title IX because there have been some changes. And the other one, they don't have too many changes. It's almost the same that we had before. You receive a copy of them. I hope that you didn't read it. Spend some time and read all of them. And because they are in everyday operations in the Lansing School District. I will be happy to add any other board member to add anything I forgot and answer any question the other board members have.
Any questions from board members? Dr. Burrows.
Yeah, thank you. Can you clarify for me, were these all driven by changes in federal and state laws and regulations? Is that where these are coming?
That is correct. We had to follow what the rules and regulations of the state. And that is what are in this, especially in Title IX, and also in the suspensions and board member processes, suspension and expulsions and everything. All of these policies, they follow the last decisions or regulations from the government.
Thank you. So I know sometimes there's discretion, there's options about whether you want to choose language A or language B. Did that come up in any of these policy decisions, or were these just very straight down the line?
I think that if we go to the policies, we will find out whatever we have the alternative is there in the policy. If there's no alternative, we don't have it. But if there's any other alternative, and Mr. Sinecropia and I, we know about policies for years, then he can help me on that. But if is any other possibilities for expulsion, for less days and all that, there is in the law, they will reflect exactly the same in our policies.
Dr. Rodriguez, if I may.
Thank you.
The four policies that we're going to look at tonight are basically, there were the word changes here and there. There was no big changes at all in any of those. The Title IX policy is going to be big changes, and it's an important enough topic that we felt we should bring somebody in and explain it to us fully, so we're all pretty much on the same page. The four policies were recommended that you're seeing tonight were recommended by Neola for some minor changes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for the question. Thank you very much.
Mrs. Willis?
Madam President, I have a very specific question about a policy. Would you like for me to ask it now or hold until we are discussing the action?
Go ahead.
Okay. I have a question related to policy 5610. It's the emergency removal, suspension, and expulsion of students. Towards the end of that policy, there is a language in here related to corporal punishment. This caught my eye in particular. The state of Michigan's Department of Health and Human Services is going through a lot of policy revision as it relates to seclusion and restraints after the tragic death of the child in the residential facility at Lakeside in Kalamazoo. And so I've been in discussions around some of the DHHS policy around seclusion and restraints. We do have an existing policy. It's policy 5630.1 or 0.01 that is our student seclusion and policy and restraint policy. I actually think it's very thorough. That policy hits on the time restraints, reporting restraints, what's prohibited, what you can't do. I think that policy hits everything on the head. So I'm saying all that to say, we have a reference here that says staff shall not use force or violence to compel obedience. And then the next paragraph says, within the scope of their employment, all staff may use reasonable force and apply restraint to accomplish the following. I would recommend that we would say within the scope of their employment and in compliance with policy 5630, so that it directly links our seclusion and restraint policy, so that folks don't think that just because they're doing an emergency, that they don't have to follow our seclusion and restraint policy. So that's the only recommendation that I have.
I think that we can incorporate that, and then when we are going, before we vote, that you can make that motion to incorporate that in the first reading. Is that okay with you?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Willis. Mr. Lopez?
Yes, but I see we're going to, the next item is to motion to approve the consent agenda. I had a question in terms of the personnel report. There's two items listed. One is changes and one is personnel report. What is the difference? I've been looking at that and I don't see any difference in both. Could someone?
Mr. Lopez, the difference is the first one is for board approval, and the one that's changes is just for our information.
But
so
they both are the same information on both, right?
There should be different. The board approval has new hires and LSCA and tenure, and then the for board information is resignations and non-teacher hires that don't require board approval. So if you're seeing the wrong documents attached, maybe I just need to get you the right attachment online. I have a hard copy.
So yeah, you'll see at the top of one of the pages it says for board approval. Go to the next page. It says for board information.
Okay, hold 1 second.
So one's a personnel report and one's a change report.
Yeah. They seem so alike. I was thinking, what are the differences? But thank you for that explanation.
Thank you, Mrs. Willis. Okay, moving on to ISOA report. Dr. Rodriguez, you're up again.
Thank you, Madam President. The ISOA committee or board met yesterday from 8 in the morning to 9:40. It was a long meeting. And I sent to you about 2 hours ago, I sent to the superintendent and every board member the minutes of that meeting that you can go over, and it's about 4 pages. You have a lot of information that I think every board member should know. You have all the information right there. The first one is about the budget. What is going on with the budget in the state, how much money they are going to give us, what the possibilities. And you know, the budget, they said, Jennifer Smith from Michigan Association of the School Board, she said, this thing changed, the budget changed every day until it's approved maybe before September the 30th. The first part is about the budget. The second is about return to learn, or a school year, and the continuity of the learning plan. Remember, the Lansing School District has to present a learning plan, and the superintendent knows more than I do about that. But now every month, they had to present a learning plan to the Ingham County, and Ingham County will present that to this to the state. This learning plan is according to the curriculum and standards and this kind of thing. And you will have that if you read what I sent to you. Also, they are giving the superintendent the power to do many things that they didn't have before. The other thing we were talking was about counting. You know, the counting day is going to be October the 7th. And the counting this year is going to be 75% or last year counting, and 25% of this year, especially for us, that the students are not going to be in the buildings. But if they are in the buildings, they had to be there. They also explained there how to count students, how to count students to be able to count FTE. There are 3 different ways that you can count. If you contact them, if they return a paper, and so on. That is another important thing that we have to follow, because that is all is going to reflect in the budget that we are going to have. If we lose students, so we don't count students, we won't have the money. And also, how many days a school is going to have in how many hours? You have that there, you know, if our students feel the goal and objectives of the plan, that the days are not going to be so important, or the hours are not going to be so important, that they are going to be testing. And maybe about this, after you read this, I sent one to the superintendent, maybe he can clarify this kind of thing, because for me, it was the first time that I heard all these things. But I'm sure for the superintendent and the superintendent meetings with the IISD, they had more and more about that, and maybe send us an email or something. But this kind of thing, I think the board of education should be, the board members should be informed and they should know and how our district is moving. If I had the answer, I will be more than happy to ask any question.
Any questions from board members? Okay, we're going to move on to our consent agenda for this evening. May I have a motion?
Madam President,
Dr. Rodriguez.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Or
It's been moved by Dr. Rodriguez, supported by Dr. Burrows. Our consent agenda this evening includes the August 20th regular meeting minutes, receipt and approval of the personnel report, furniture recommendations for Everett Phase 2, and the Everett water main bid recommendation. Mr. Lopez, you are muted.
That's okay, Madam Chair. I'm looking at 2 documents on my agenda. One does not say for board information only. They both say for board approval. Maybe it was just not attached for personnel report.
Okay, would you like someone to send you, you have the one that's for approval, correct? Okay, so that's what we're voting on. So we can send you the additional document.
Thank you. That's why I lowered my hand after I.
Sure, okay, gotcha. Thank you. Mrs. Willis? Your policy? Nope, that's not in this consent agenda.
what's on the new business?
Any other questions or comments about the consent agenda? Okay, will the clerk please call the roll?
Dr. Beverly,
Yes.
Dr. Body,
Yes.
Dr. Burrows,
Yes.
Ms. Hodgen,
Amy, you need to unmute yourself.
uh-oh,
Okay, let's just go on.
okay. Mrs. Lawrence,
Yes.
Mrs. Lilgy,
Yes.
Mr. Lopez,
Yes.
Dr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mrs. Willis.
Yes.
Shall we try Ms. Hodgen again?
Hey, let's
Mute,
call that.
okay.
Let's call that.
I was muted and someone unmuted me. I was informed that I have been muted. Now I have been informed that someone has unmuted me.
Okay, how do you vote on the consent agenda, Amy?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Moving on to new items for this evening. Our first new item, our only new item, is the first reading of the Neola 2020 updated policies. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Support.
It's been moved by Mr. Lopez, supported by Mrs. Willis, that the Board of Education consider the attached policies for first reading. Any discussion?
Didn't we want the friendly amendment with Rachel's
Right.
modification?
Rachel, can you restate that for us, please?
Yes, so in policy 5610, with the friendly amendment on under the subsection corporal punishment, we will add within the scope of their employment and in accordance to policy 5630.01.
Mr. Lopez, do you accept that friendly amendment to your?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion? Okay, will the clerk please call the roll?
Dr. Beverly,
Yes.
Kitty. No, I like cats.
Richie, you want those coupons?
You guys are gonna hurt his feelings. It's a dog.
Dog?
That was a dog?
But it looked like a cat.
It sounded like a.
We're both gonna have a complex.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
Farhan's locked out again. He needs to be upgraded.
Yeah, I'm on it.
It sounded like a wounded walrus, not gonna lie.
We applied to get a greyhound. We're waiting to hear back.
Would that be 4 dogs?
No, my 2 older dogs passed away. Within 6 weeks of each
I'm
other.
so sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not a host, so you will have to make Dr. Body a panelist.
Yeah,
I was muted. Sam, I'm not a host, so you'll need to make Dr. Body a panelist. You left.
Oh, you're a co-host.
Oh, now I am. Now I am. Okay. Okay, there we go. We're just waiting on Dr. Rodriguez. Okay.
So that was a dog? Was that the consensus?
Thank you, Farhan. Thank you.
He's a doctor, Rachel. I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
Are we broadcasted or what's happening?
Yes.
Okay.
We're just waiting for Dr. Rodriguez.
Okay.
As we're waiting for Dr. Rodriguez, I just want to remind everyone in attendance that this meeting is a meeting of the board. This is the board's opportunity to discuss issues coming before the school district. If there are members of the public who are in attendance who wish to make public comment, you do need to register to make public comment on our website. You need to do that prior to the start of the meeting. When we have presentations or when we're discussing board issues, we do not accept questions or comments from the public while we are conducting our meeting. That's why we have public comment time. And again, you would need to submit your information in order to be recognized to make that public comment. Has anybody heard from Dr. Rodriguez?
If he's not able to rejoin us, Madam President, I'm able to do the secretary report and announcements.
Okay. Yep. Okay, let's go ahead. We have 2 motions before us. May I have someone make one of them?
Excuse me, before we start, I talked to Nino and I just sent him another link, so he should be on shortly. Did you get it?
Mr. Lopez, you want to talk about that now? Might as well. You're muted, Mr. Lopez.
There you go. How's that?
Yep.
Okay, as all of you know that this COVID has affected a lot of things, all our festivals, all our gatherings. So Cristo Rey Church is not going to have the annual fiesta as such, but we're going to have a Cristo Rey Fiesta Food Fest drive-through event. So all the food that's served during the regular fiestas, gorditas, menudo, barbacoa, tacos, all that stuff will be available on a drive-through basis. This is going to be September 12th and 13th from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. So, and you know, it's the first day of Lions football, so you can have your home gate, come get your food, and then you don't have to worry about it. All right. So everybody's invited. I'm going to send a flyer to each one of you because I know you would like to have one, but this is it. If the viewing public is watching, you're all invited to be with us. The other good thing in conjunction with this is that the health department is having a testing site at North School on the 12th. And so that's going to happen. And we're going to have it at the same site, but it became too much. So we worked with the school district and the health department, and they're able to set up on the parking lot of North School to do testing. So everybody, please come, get tested, and that's for everybody. It's open to the public. So, and I think the hours are from 10 to 2 p.m. for that.
Okay. If anybody has not had a COVID test, it is an assault on your nasal passages. So you probably do need to reward yourself with a taco after you're done. That sounds like a plan to me. We will be there. Not getting tested.
The question is, will you get it before you eat or after you eat?
I think you gotta get it before you eat.
Also, given
Something to
line,
look forward to.
also given Lions football, you might eat a taco.
And an antacid.
Yeah.
Sam, any update from Dr. Rodriguez? Okay, we're gonna go ahead. Okay, may I have a motion from someone?
Madam President,
Mr. Dr. Beverly.
I move that the Board of Education approve the letter of agreement between the Lansing Education Assistants and Lansing School District as presented.
Support.
It's been moved by Dr. Beverly, supported by Dr. Burrows. Any questions or comments on this? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Dr. Beverly?
Yes.
Dr. Bach?
Yes.
Dr. Burrows?
Yes.
Ms. Hodgen? Ms. Hodgen, you are muted.
That was the video button, not the mute button. You're still muted, Amy. There you go.
So what did you want? What was the question?
How do you vote on the motion? How do you vote on the motion?
Yes.
Mrs. Lawrence?
Yes.
Mrs. Lilji?
Yes.
Mr. Lopez?
Yes.
Dr. Rodriguez? He's still not with us, okay. Mrs. Willis?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Moving on to our second recommended motion. May I have a motion?
Madam President,
Dr. Burrows.
I'd like to motion that the Board of Education approve the letter of agreement between Lansing Schools Education Association and the Lansing School District as presented.
Support.
It's been moved by Dr. Burrows, supported by Ms. Hodgen. Any questions or comments? Will the clerk please call the roll? Ms. Lilje.
Just letting you know that I plan to abstain to avoid a conflict of interest.
Thank you, Mrs. Lilje. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Dr. Beverly,
Yes.
Dr. Body,
Yes.
Dr. Burrows,
Yes.
Hodgen,
Amy.
Yes.
Mrs. Lawrence,
Yes.
Mr. Lopez,
Yes.
Dr. Rodriguez. He's still not
Dr.
with us?
Rodriguez just he can't get on, so he said just
Sure.
to carry on.
I just thought I would check. Mrs. Willis,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you very much. Moving on to report from Secretary and announcements, Mrs. Willis.
Yes, just a reminder that the first day of school, all barring, I'm not even gonna put it out there, the first day of school will be Tuesday, September 8th, 2020. Thank you so much to the community and staff and everyone involved with your flexibility. First day of virtual learning, really looking forward to it. We do not have an information study session scheduled for September 10th. That will now be the officers meeting. On Tuesday, September 15th, there is another parent university that will be titled, I Can't Get My Child to Come to School. It will be from 5:30 to 6:30 and more information about that to come. And then our next regular board meeting will be Thursday, September 17th at 6 p.m. We are still planning to host that remotely unless anything changes related to the executive order. And Madam President, that concludes the secretary announcement.
Thank you, Mrs. Willis. I just want to take a moment to talk to the staff and to talk to our parents of kids who are going to be starting school next week. We know how tough this is. We know how strange this is. We recognize that we have asked a lot of you. We recognize that staff had to today make a very quick change in what they were planning to do when school starts next week. This board has always been extremely clear that we make every decision motivated by maintaining the health and safety of the students and our staff members. That is at the forefront of all of our minds whenever we make a decision. We continue to be guided by that principle. We know that this country is approaching 200,000 deaths of coronavirus, and this Board of Education is not willing to gamble with the life of any member of our Lansing School District family. We anticipate that there will probably be more changes as we continue through this remote learning process. We know there will be technology issues. We know that kids are going to get bored looking at their screens. We know that there will be growing pains, and we're all going to grow through these together. We've got to give each other grace. We've got to give each other patience. Staff, I'm asking you to set the tone in your classroom, in your virtual classroom. Staff members know, teachers know that if you have a positive attitude, those kids are going to have a positive attitude as well. And I know how tough it is when you're in your feelings, as the kids say. I know how tough it is to put on that strong face. And that's what we're asking you to do. This board is here. The executive team is here. The superintendent is here if you need us. We're in this with you. We're in this together. We cannot wait to see how it goes next week. And frankly, I'm very optimistic. I think this is going to be really cool. I think we've all been thinking, oh my gosh, this thing is looming, this event is looming, and it's going to be remote learning. And how is it going to be? I've decided that it's going to be great. And yes, I'm not a teacher, but I've decided that this is going to be a wonderful opportunity to be innovative and to potentially learn how to do different things. I was thinking the other day, I know I'm talking a long time and I'm going to wrap this up quick, but I was thinking the other day that are there possibly classes that are offered at one of the high schools that are not offered at the other high schools? Sam, do you want to just nod or shake your head at me?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
He's tuned me out by this time. Are there potentially classes that are offered at Eastern, for example, that are not offered at Sexton and Everett?
Yes, that is.
Japanese, for example, we have Japanese at Everett, correct?
Everett, correct.
Who knows? If we hone this remote learning situation that we're going to start next week, then maybe that's going to open up a lot of different possibilities to us and allow us to be able to offer these classes district-wide. I'm going to choose to look at the opportunities and to look for the opportunities. And I invite and I ask you all to join me in that. Good luck next week. Can't wait to hear how it goes. With that, any further comments from the board?
I am here. I hope everybody did the secretary work.
Thanks, Dr. Rodriguez. Mr. Lopez.
If they need my pen or my pencil, I will give it to them.
Okay,
but
thank you.
I think it was a good meeting, and we will have another one in September.
We already talked about that. We already covered that.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Mr. Lopez.
Yes, going along with what you're saying is very important. And I did send the board an article I found in, I think, in Facebook, whatever. It was a teacher who was really positive about this type of learning. Among other things you said, it's also gives the students really a look into the future, and a look into their college days when they graduate from high school, and even in their high school days, in their upper grades, how much they're going to have to be using the internet to learn, and how they're going to have to do research. So being acquainted with learning virtually will come then be more easy for our students. So I think that the message is don't worry about it. Just take it in, suck it in, and learn. And don't look at it as a burden, but as an opportunity instead of a challenge. It's an opportunity that I think will do well for all students in the future. And of course, we want to have them together, but listen, take this as an opportunity. It'll help you. And parents, please help your students look at it that way, And if parents need help, we have a parent, what is it coming up? Information session, I think, academy. They can learn. There's some resources from the school district. So don't feel like there's no help. Call the school district, talk to your teacher, and there are resources. Thank you,
Mr. Lopez. I would also invite community members, if you know that you have a Lansing School District family who's on your block or down the street or in your apartment building, and you know that the first day of school is Tuesday, maybe make them a snack or make them dinner or bring them some extra. My mom always would bring toilet paper. Maybe just bring them something, let them know that you're thinking of them. Give your neighbor a little bit of encouragement, because I know we're certainly all going to need it. Thank you, everybody. At 7:39, we are adjourned.
Oh, well, goodbye. Have a good night, everybody.